welcome to the Stanley Street Social Podcast. Jason Bartram. I've been waiting for this day since 2013 when we first met in Lavinia. It's great to have you on board.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, keen to be on the podcast and share some thoughts.
One of Australia's leading sports scientists. You work with the former women's TP coach. You work with the under-23 team. You work with Oz Cycling back in, I don't know, I guess, when did your journey start? What was the first year that you joined the campaign?
Yeah, joined Oz Cycling or Cycling Oz back then in 2013, pretty much close to when we met. Before that, did a couple of years in Canberra at the Australian Institute of Sport.
So where were your first interaction with professional athletes?
Yeah, the AIS for sure. It was a pretty cool experience. They take on a bunch of interns each year, or back then they did, and straight out of uni, I was super stoked to get a spot over there. And
what did you think of us as your first experience?
Well, you guys
were like, this is what I've been busting myself at university for, to hang out with these hooligans.
No, you guys are a lot of fun. That was really cool, that experience to go up to your camp in Lavinia. And that's where I first met Paolo as well, obviously Paolo Manasta.
Yeah, former podcast guest.
I've listened.
A very popular podcast with Paolo.
Oh,
Except
really?
I spent the whole time trying to get him to say, because I know how much he's done, but he's so precise and to the book, and everything has to be exact. I'm like, God, just say you invented Caleb's lead out posse, Paolo. Come on, give me more.
Oh, he was so good at it. A humble guy. Smart guy.
Yeah. When you saw our team, could you tell, like, oh, this guy's going to be a pro?
Oh no, I was pretty raw back then.
Or did you think
I thought you were all superstars?
You thought me and Flaky were the two next big things?
Mate.
Well, Flaky fulfilled his potential.
He did, didn't he? He got the BMC ride.
The BMC ride. So fast forward from 2013, you end up in Adelaide in charge of the women's TP squad after a disappointing Rio. So it was a tough Rio for them. A new performance director, and also Gary Sutton on the out. So like a legend of Australian cycling, and then coaching. And also not just that, like I've never met Gary for context, but from what I understand, like he was a very old school, he was a coach, and you're a sports scientist, kind of like either ends of the spectrum. What was it like entering that role?
Yeah. Gary was an amazing coach, and I definitely learnt plenty from watching. So through the time while Gary was coaching the women, I was a sports scientist with the men's program, and there was a bit of distance between the programs, but always watching from afar and seeing what Gary was able to do and how he was able to bring a team together. And they got some great results through that window. Of course, unfortunately, they had a crash in training right before Rio. And look, pretty difficult to come back from that. I remember when the job came up, so obviously Simon comes in, puts the job up, and I threw my hand up and said, hey, I think I can have a crack at this, and I think I can do this. And Gary knew I was applying, so it was, I spoke to him about it as well. So it was really quite a rough transition, to see him pushed aside and myself to get the opportunity. So a little bit bittersweet.
Yeah. It must be a weird situation where you're not just taking like the old boss's role, but you're like pushing them out at the same time.
Yeah.
Not that it's your decision.
No.
Like obviously it's Simon's call, but it's still like a challenging scenario.
Yeah, all I kept trying to take it back to was I had a belief that I could improve the program and that I could do a good job, and I had to try and hold by that and stick to that in my mind.
What were your main focuses when you first hit that role? Like what were you like? This is what I'm going to really knuckle down and get to work on.
Yeah, look, there was a few elements. One element was just bringing a little bit more science to the training and the approach in general. a little bit more evidence based behind what we were doing, really knowing the why, why are we doing any given training on a given day, and what is the result that we expect to come from it. The other one is one which there's probably two more elements that I feel like I brought in there. And one was very much what I learned through working with the men's program and working with Tim. And that is just the sense of team and the sense of a bunch of individuals who are all willing to commit to a vision and to commit to a single outcome, rather than being individuals and each wanting success, but they want success potentially over the top of one another versus wanting success for one another. And the third thing, which I remember saying at the very beginning, was a reflection from Rio, where with the men's program, we put absolutely everything into winning that gold medal in Rio, and it didn't come off. We won the silver. And just the emotional journey of how much that hurt, and like I'm sure it hurt the athletes just as much, but the way we spoke about it and just lived it day in, day out, and then when it didn't come to fruition, how much it hurt was a little bit too much for me, and it made me reflect a little bit on how much we glorify the gold medal. And so I wanted to, it's actually a cool runnings quote, which I pulled out, which I really like. It's John Candy, and he says, he's trying to explain why he cheated, or how he regrets cheating in the bobsled. And he says, I think it's Maurice is the guy, but he says, if you're not enough of a man without a gold medal, then you're not going to be enough of a man with a gold medal. So just kind of remembering that these are people. We're people first. We do our absolute best, but at the end of the day, you can't control whether you do get that gold or not.
Interesting to get your thoughts on point 2. So about the team,
Sure.
like that is a tricky scenario to foster, though, because you've got how many athletes at the start of an Olympic cycle that are going for these 4 spots or 5 potentially.
Yep.
Because they are competing. So how do you build that sense of team when realistically they are going head to head trying to push each other out by getting stronger than the other?
Yep. I think I got better at it over time in the role, but for me, it was having fair and upfront conversations around how selection would unfold, how people would earn those spots. And if you get to a situation where it's fairly clear that you're not the strongest rider in the team, or you're not in the top 4, then you can at least be satisfied knowing, hey, I gave it my all to get there, and I also helped support those other girls to get there. So we talked a lot around, I guess, playing your role within the team, whether that role be being just in the training environment and pushing other girls to new levels, or to actually get the ride done at the end of the day.
Was that tricky when it seemed like from the outside there wasn't a whole lot of transparency coming from some of the other teams within CA, and like there was some bad press, I guess, coming from some of the athletes that I was talking to around, like, oh, we just got cut. Like that was it. There was no transparency.
Sure. I guess that's where I talk about getting better. I was a part of that as well. We had some pressure from the high performance director at the time around squad sizes, and we had to make some really, really tricky calls to fit a bigger number of riders into a smaller number of riders. And yeah.
And to play to your point, your third point about being more than just a medal, like that's an athlete's career on the line, and especially when they're especially the ones I really feel for are the sprinters. Like when you've got, that is it. Like all you need is all you have and all you can go for is the track. You can't really become a roadie afterwards. It's a savage sport, track cycling,
isn't it? Yep.
So you got in there. Was it all going well? Like how were things built? Because obviously we had such a successful Com Games. Worlds were going well. Like, talk to me about how things went in those first couple of years.
Yeah, for sure.
And talk about the men's too. Like, obviously, I remember Welsford talking about like that you guys were training a lot more together. You're doing a lot more as one unit.
Yeah. Look, coming into the role to start with, it was a big step up for me, and a really good opportunity. So I was throwing myself at it, and Com Games was the first goal we worked towards that year. One of Simon's initiatives was for us to travel less, and that involved us not going to the World Championships. I don't know if you remember, it was a bit of a controversial decision at the time to sit out the 2018 World Champs and focus just on Com Games. But that's the way we played it, and it was actually, it felt like quite a short prep kind of going in towards Com Games, trying to, we had a few girls who were over in Europe, a few girls in the States, like when I first took on the role. So it was like trying to slowly drag people back into the track and to trying to create that sense of team. But yeah, 2018, fast forward to 2019. And yeah, we were on top of the world that season, that year. Things really clicked, and we laid down some good results over in Poland. And I just remember that feeling of winning. It was an amazing feeling in Poland at the World Champs, and I just remember trying to keep a lid on my emotions, and even had a chat with Simon about it around, we know we've done this before as a country. We know we've managed to succeed in those middle World Championships, and just to make sure that we do keep some perspective on it, and keep trying to make sure we're peaking for the Olympic Games.
Was that something you were conscious of from the get-go? Because we have like the strongest track record of just delivering and almost being there. Almost just like, GB, just get us every time at the Olympics. You're like, it cuts you again.
Yeah, absolutely. Plenty of internal chat about it. Trying to make sure that we could create programs that would allow us to peak at the games. The trickiest part being probably what you saw at the 2020 World Champs, when performances weren't quite on track, which of course you go to every World Champs trying to win, but part of our performance plan was to somewhat train through the 2020 World Champs and try and peak at the Olympics. And then you obviously saw a large reaction from our performance director when the results didn't fall, high up on the leaderboard.
So what actually happened there? What actually? So that games. So were you guys going there expecting not to deliver? Obviously, the Danes rode, and who won the women's TP? Was it GB?
Or I think maybe the US got them.
Well, the US got it. With Chloe just dragging the team around.
Chloe was in some good form.
Yeah, good form. So you guys both missed performance targets, or was it like, nah, no worries, guys. Like we've got this bigger picture goal. There's this milestone that's out there, but we know that we're going to be in the best nick for the games.
Yeah, I mean, every race, every checkpoint, every time you go out and try and perform, you take stock and you take assessment. You have expectations going in as far as how well you're going to go. The things you did to get to that point, and it was the same for that Worlds in my mind. We went there. There were a few things that weren't quite right, and a few things that we needed to fix up. I felt confident that we had time to tidy them up and fix them. Yeah.
What wasn't right?
We had a few things regarding our physical prep that I think needed changing. And we had a few things regarding our aerodynamics, some of our setup that was, and again, that was part of the journey, right? We got to see GB do it a couple of years in a row now, where they, on race day at the Olympic Games, they pull out this tech that is just light years above what we ever imagined, and they managed to beat us. So part of our plan was to try and do quite similar, where at the Olympic Games we had made sure we had the best tech. To get ourselves a result.
So the plan was to unravel the crazy forks and skin suits and yada 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 at the actual games, and not debut it beforehand.
The complete package, yeah, not till the games. Everything that the UCI were a bit better in their rules. Complicated as always with the UCI, but every piece of equipment had to be ridden at some stage prior to. But putting it all together in that final package, was supposed to be saved till the games.
And what about the physical part? Like, was that part of the plan as well, or were you actually thinking, oh, geez, we're a little bit underdone here?
Yeah, I do think we were a little underdone. We had so we peaked for the Brisbane World Cup, which was probably 3 months earlier. We had a little bit of time off after that, like a very small amount, and then we did a little mini prep for the Worlds. But there's definitely some, as any coach does, you tweak plans and you make calls. And I think from the results that unfolded, it shows that we needed to get a little bit more physical work done before competing again.
How far has sports science come in terms of like being actually able to depict, all right, we are going to be flying at the Olympic Games? Like, what was your confidence level that from that World Championship, from the Brisbane to the Worlds to the Olympics, that you were going to be able to deliver a team that was riding X time?
Gee, mate, yeah, you just don't know. You can track rider progressions, and you can try and say, okay, we've got this up our sleeve, we can still change this, we can still make this. You could look at individual rider performances and say, okay, this is the best we've seen from each rider. If we can get everyone on their best on the day and we combine them together, that's the result that's going to unfold. You can't tell though, Alex.
Yeah.
Still so many unknown variables in there.
Yeah, and at that point, were you guys all about the two teams pursuit races?
Absolutely.
Where was there any kind of desire to have a rider that was in condition to do the Madison and the Omnium, or was that just like an added bonus that was kind of on the side?
Yeah, look, I think one of the catchphrases that probably frames up the strategy for the last few years is what I would call aggressive event prioritization. So, I mean, we know that straight up there was a cut to the road development program in order to go all in on the track. And then even beyond that, within the track, there were certain events that we were targeting to perform. And that was the timed events, so team pursuits and team sprints.
Yeah.
But I guess the game plan there is, okay, so we focus our prep on the TP, but then we use the strengths of that TP prep to try and put forward our best possible races in the Omnium and the Madison.
Yeah. Post Worlds, obviously the world had a little hiccup. COVID came along, and then the Olympics was all of a sudden a year out. And we had
the pangolin, the mighty pangolin.
Yeah, we had a bit of time to sit down and regroup before the actual Olympics. Well, even the actual Olympics, like we thought it was going to be on, but there was no guarantee that it was going to be on. The thought of bringing together the entire world just seemed crazy until 2 weeks ago when Tokyo delivered it somehow. And then also for yourself personally, there was a massive change that you were no longer the head of the women's program. Was that a shock?
Yeah, absolutely it was. I came back from Worlds. I had a short break, a mandated break that all staff had post World Championships, and came back. I think it was day one back on deck, and got all these ideas, all these different tweaks and changes to try and implement in this next 6 months window. And got told that I was no longer going to be the coach of the program. Didn't see it coming, and it definitely, I guess one of the big things I reflected on through here was this is the kind of thing we do to athletes as well. And it definitely made me reflect on practices that how we treat athletes.
It's savage, isn't it? So you had zero inkling, zero idea.
No, I started to get so Simon asked to catch up with me, like a meeting on that first day back, and it was quite late in the day, and like just before the meeting, I started to go like, what is this meeting about? Like I just assumed, catching up, chat performances and stuff. But yeah, started to get nervous as I was heading towards the meeting, and yeah.
And was there reasons? Like, did it make sense?
I Oh, look, you look at the results of the 2020 Worlds, and if you look at that snapshot individually, you'd say, yeah, things weren't going right. Whether I had the solutions to tidy things up and to get the job done, that's impossible to answer now, right?
Yeah, but also just coming back to those 3 points, which I really liked, by the way, those three key focuses at the start of that Olympic campaign. It doesn't really fit 2 and 3 at all. It seems like there's a disjointed nature between what you were trying to deliver and the environment that you were trying to deliver that process in.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely an element there, Alex, where I guess, and I don't know, this is a question I'll put out there is, can you involve the high performance director in those conversations? Can you bring them in and be part of that vision? Or does there always need to be a little bit of separation? Because you can definitely put a lot of heart into the role as coach. So do you need someone who sits above it and can be a little bit more ruthless with their calls?
Yeah, okay. So you're saying there's at the time, yourself and Tim.
Yep.
And then there's someone that's ahead of, isn't that Simon's job? Or is that not Simon's job?
Yeah. So that was Simon, performance director. Yep.
So do you reckon there needs to be another person in there? Or what's
No. I'm just saying everyone has their roles within a high performance department. And could you, does Simon need to be that kind of authoritative stoic figure that sits above it, or can you bring him into the vision? And I'd like to think that you could align that vision a little bit more. But just flagging that there is the need sometimes for someone to make hard calls.
Does that vision need to come from him? Like if you think about it, think about a business structure, like it's the CEO and then there's the heads of that drive that vision that the CEO speaks, for sure, believes, creates. Yeah. That is a crazy situation to have 1 year out from an Olympics.
Yep.
Did it rock the team?
It's hard to think it wouldn't have. I obviously went through my own little journey of trying to deal with the news and probably separated myself from the team quite a bit in that early stage. You know, I did speak to the athletes and check in and see how they were going, but probably not as much as I wish I did in hindsight. But I do trust the staff members that were carrying on in those roles, and I knew that the people in those roles would be doing the best for them and would deliver them to the game. So for me, it was around trying to keep the riders having belief that the people around them were there to do the job for them.
It's such a big change though for an athlete to move coaches. It's enormous. And I think that applies to any level. I still clearly remember when Matt Gilmer first told me that he was moving to Adelaide and leaving me on the island. He was leaving me in Tasmania. Yeah. I'm like, what do you mean? And turns out I was very, 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 very fortunate that he was shipping Gene Bates in, who was an exceptional coach. And it didn't take long to transition. But there is still a gap of, let's say, 2 weeks of overlay. And then by the time the athletes build the trust in the next person, which I think is the basis, which is probably not going to play to your sports science world, but I think the basis of all coaching is just the ability for the athlete to trust whatever that coach writes down on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that you do that and you know that you will be in the best condition come race day. It must have been a tricky time to be an athlete within the team, especially the women's team, obviously, because the men's team had that a little bit more consistency.
Yeah,
that was just a massive statement.
No, it's good. Good to hear your insights. It's good for you to.
So let's talk. Fast forward to Tokyo. We're in Tokyo. Somehow the International Olympic Committee has put on an Olympic Games during the global pandemic, which at the start I was a little bit, I just don't know how that sits with me. But as of about 2 minutes into the first event, I've just been binge watching the Olympic Games for the last 2 weeks. It's been awesome. And I feel like I've got one more. Is it one more week with the Paras starting today?
Oh, no, Paris don't start straight away.
How long we got till they start?
1 or 2 weeks, I think.
Okay,
Yeah,
we get
a little gap.
We get a
gap,
little bit of a downer. Little bit of a downer.
which you need, I think. I'm pretty exhausted from this Olympics.
I'm
exhausted. I don't know about you.
I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. Australia's campaign. Let's talk about Australia's campaign first as a whole.
Right.
17 medals, best ever,
Huge.
equal to Athens. I think that was part of my attachment to this year's Olympics, is that every day you turn the TV on and we're bagging medals.
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe. Any theories why? Any theories why this Olympics was so successful?
Gee, I think there's a few elements there. You've got to think that in the scope of COVID in the world, that Australia was pretty well placed to handle it with the way we approached it as a country. A chance to just be at home and train for a lot of people. Like, don't get me wrong, there were disruptions for every country, including our own, but I'd have to say we were pretty well placed to handle that. The other one you got to go is a little bit of luck. There's so many medals that, performances that go out on the day, and they're 50-50. You run that race multiple times and they can go each way. And this way, a lot fell our way. You got to give it that. But the other one is just in general, our desire to succeed as a sporting nation. We've been on a decline since Athens, and no one's happy about it. No one wants it, and so yeah, there's a lot of desire and want and drive to get that medal count back up.
Yeah. Even I think to your first point, even looking at some of the data around viewership in the US, mate, being the biggest consumer of the games, like their TV stats are off big style, off 30 odd percent. And you think, like, well, does that translate into them having 30 less percent interest in actually the preparation? Like, they actually went through a global pandemic of traumatic loss. Like, there has to be a flow-on effect to the actual athletes and how their prep's coming along. The cycling then started. So we were riding this wave of swimming.
Yeah, swimming.
What
was the stat like early on? It was like first 10 medals, 11 or 9 of them were water-based sports.
Yeah.
I
don't like watching swimming.
You don't?
I only like watching swimming because we crush the swimming.
Because we're good at it.
We're good at it.
Yeah.
Like, if there's a swimming race and Australians not in it, I don't enjoy watching it. Whereas track and field, I like watching the track and field. But
I feel you.
I was hooked on the swimming for the first week.
Yep.
And it was also flowing onto other things. When you had rowing or any kayaking, it was left, right, and center. And the track started, which obviously has a special interest for us. And the men's and women's TP rode on the first day. The women were slow relative to everyone else. And then the Australians had one of the most horrific crashes you could possibly think of on the track, with Porter's handlebars breaking off and him face planting into the deck at 70 km an hour, which still feels gross. What was your take on day one?
Gee, I was I tell you what, I was anxious going in, really anxious.
I was nervous.
Yeah. I thought I could just be a spectator, sit back and watch and enjoy, but definitely was right in it emotionally with all of them. You feel a bit flat, don't you, when performances don't go the way, watching the women's time not come together. Definitely feel a bit
Did
flat.
that not come together? Like, would you consider that not coming together? Or with the German, because it just seemed like Germany was so quick.
Mm-hmm.
But was everyone expecting to be that quick?
Yeah, look, I guess when you look at our qualifying ride versus what they managed to pull out in the following rounds, you can see that the qualifying ride wasn't representative of what they were capable of. for sure. In terms of goal setting and where we needed to be competitive, I think we did know. We 100% knew what that was going to be. My predictions, I was pretty happy to see my window for the winning time was 4:05 to 4:07. It's like a 4:07 qual into a 4:05 final, and it was pretty close. So
I think they rode 4:04 in the final.
4:04 high, Alex. We'll call it 4:04
high.
high. We'll run.
So
we'll round that up.
some could round it to a 5.
Yeah, there's a nice little catch there at the end where they almost caught the team in front, and I reckon that got them just under and ruined my prediction. But yeah, it's a little yay for science there, Alex.
So what went wrong in the first ride? Noting that we are both couch commentators.
Absolutely.
You've got science on your side. I've just got opinion on my side. Like what could have, or do you think halted that performance of that desired 4:07?
Oof. I assume you've got to look back at the prep. That's where you got to go back to. I'm confident that every girl who lined up on that start line gave everything that they had. No question there. Nothing wrong with the race strategy or the gear selection or anything like that. It's just they gave what they had, and that's where it was.
Is like nerves an option? Like nerves on the day?
Absolutely. I mean, we spoke about how nervous we were. We
yeah, I was nervous.
The Olympic Games is big. It's a big scene, very big scene.
And these athletes have spent the last 5 years doing some of the most boring cycling training in the world for this one event that's going to last just over 4 minutes.
Yeah, I always love the talking about like trying to create pressure or those kind of that feeling or that sensation of the games in training. But gosh, it's just not possible. There's nothing with the same consequence of an Olympic Games.
Does the Com Games and Worlds come close?
World Champs is up there, but again, as you said, it's like I actually listened to one of your chats with, I think, Maxi Gorn the other day, and you were talking about cycling races, how there's always another cycling race. I think is it Jason Backer as well?
Yeah.
Talking about how cycling needs to create a story or something where like a race means something. The Olympic Games means something. I tell you that. it means something. Yeah.
And then the men's, obviously, like,
yeah.
What are the chances that you bar? Like, I assume they've been using those. Have they been using those bars for a few years now, or like how long would have they been on the bikes for?
Versions of those bars, I'm sure they've been using for long periods of time. The specific bars they rode on, I don't know what's happened, within the last 18 months.
And they happened to break on the first ride.
Yeah, it's horrible. You never want equipment to dictate something like that. I mean, I even reflect back to Rowan in Rio. Do you remember his handlebar extension breaking?
Yeah,
costing him a medal. I'm pretty confident of it. To have that kind of stuff let you down. Yeah.
And especially with a couple of especially Porter and Welsford, like those guys, when they've gone around another Olympic cycle to chase that gold. They've spent 5 years grinding, 5 years. And then for it to come unstuck after Porter got him off to such a good start as well. Like it was all ready to go.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Full credit to him. Like he is a hard man getting up again and starting. That is exceptional.
Isn't he? Yep. The whole team.
Yeah, the whole team.
Yeah, you couldn't ask any more of them from that moment. Hey, the bars break. I loved the composure from the whole group. We only see what we see on TV, but you get the odd camera shot of people. I was really impressed with Tim, how calm Tim stayed through that. He looked composed. He looked like, it happened, and let's reset and go again. So, yeah, you couldn't ask anything more, I don't think.
Yeah, and and they got to a really good point in the end with a bronze medal in strange circumstances again, which there's 3 crashes in the team's pursuit of the Olympics. Like,
yeah,
What do you mean?
Gee, you got to think it's just people pushing boundaries, don't you? Like new speeds, new levels of exhaustion. And
Do you think the men knew that they had to ride a 42?
oh, for sure. I think maybe they even thought that they had to ride faster. Yeah, they were dreaming big.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we got a bronze medal. That's a positive.
Absolutely.
Got a
An
bronze.
Olympic medal is a big thing.
It is a massive
And
thing.
we talk a lot about the gold. We want the gold. We always chase the gold, but an Olympic medal is special.
And so talk to me about, I was talking about my disappointment in the bunch races as well.
Yep.
Talk to me about the difference when you are doubling down on this TP, how hard it is for Wellsford and Nettie to take that and then run an Omnium afterwards in terms of their condition and preparation.
Yeah, so I think internally, we spoke about that aggressive event prioritization and going after the team pursuit. The flow on from that, the belief internally was that they built a prep that was specialized around delivering the result over a 3-minute 40 or up to 4-minute 10 for the girls window. You then have to try and extrapolate that form out to bunch races lasting in total upwards of an hour. It can be pretty tricky to achieve in both. That being said, you do look at a few other athletes from other countries who managed to do both. It definitely raises some questions as to whether we've taken the right line with our specialization.
Yeah, because like I said before, I was so excited when Nettie ran third in the opening scratch.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, obviously just to take that. And the Omnium is a genuine endurance-esque event now. She was lining up for the points and what's that other race called?
The tempo race.
Yeah. Straight afterwards. You got no time to relax.
Real small windows. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do we do now?
What do we do now? We
the magic question.
We do what every team does at the end of an Olympic Games. We sit back, we reflect, we know what's unfolded, and we make some calls on what the new plan will be, what the new direction will be.
Can we conclude that the narrow focus on one event is not the right solution?
Oh, unsure, Alex.
Or do we just need to find Filippo Ganna? That's my question.
Yeah, potentially. Ganna was special. There was a few athletes that were really special through that track campaign.
Highlights? Talk me through those athletes.
Look, Ganna's phenomenal, right? And he's pulling six laps on the front of the TP. So do the maths, guys. It's a 16-lap bike race, and he's on the front for 6 of those. And when he is, he's storming. He's going fast. You have a guy from Denmark who's doing a very similar role. What's his Madsen? We call him Madsen, but I don't know if that's one of his names. He's one of those.
Madsen Smith.
No, Madsen. He's one of those blokes with 3 names.
I haven't got the Danish team up here.
Anyway, rides fourth wheel, so very similar to Ganna, very similar performance. But you got to go to the women's for the standout team carries. Chloe Darget, we saw her do it at Worlds in 2020. I think she did again. She did about 6 laps on the front, but she also rode it from second wheel, which you would argue is a little bit harder than Ganna's fourth wheel roll. But then you take the cake with Katie Archibald. Katie Archibald was the starter for GB, and I think in qualifying she did 7.5 laps on the front. 7.5. That's almost half the race, right? I don't know.
You must feel like a king or queen of the track after you
That's
you deliver that kind of performance. You
a
you
big
turn
carry,
around and you
isn't
go, I carried you guys. Thank you.
Yeah. But beaten by the Germans, right? And the Germans probably had a little bit more of a balanced contribution in their women's team. Lisa Brennau was very, very impressive.
Yeah, but it wasn't. There wasn't, like you said, there wasn't that one person that is like, oh my god. Like when you see the splits versus the other times,
yeah,
like one's edging, one's edging. Then Ganna hits the front and it's like, bam. Like,
yeah. Gee, there was some exciting races this year, Alex. Like watching them were pretty exciting. Heartbroken to not have the Aussie teams in some of those races, but
yeah.
you
So
look at round 1, Italy versus New Zealand.
It's pretty good, isn't it?
0.09 of a second. So like that's the difference between New Zealand being in the final instead of Italy. 0.09.
Yeah.
That's small.
Yeah. A lot of our listeners, road cycling fans, will know Filippo Ganna and Consoni, both road pros who have been, but also have been riding the road this year. It's not like they've been hidden away on the Mappe test track, whatever the Italians use, on with a sole focus on the track. They've come to the road. They've come to the track late from the road.
Yep.
Does that not prove that is a genuine option?
There's definitely a big trend in that direction, isn't there? There's plenty of anecdotal evidence on the table now to show that these guys who have amazing capabilities to ride on the road and perform on the road, and at the same time perform on the track. I even look at Chloe Darget, the form she was in 2020 track versus what she was in here at the games. It probably wasn't quite as like, it's still big and totally unfair to say that she was not on form, because she was still very impressive. But when you look at what she was doing on the road world's closest to that 2020 track, like both were really, really impressive in the same year. Then you go to this Olympic Games where she did the road and the track. Road was down a bit and track was down a bit as well. So maybe they're a little bit more aligned than we think.
So if you're consulting the next director of the high performance unit, what's the strategy? What are you saying?
Yeah, gee,
give me something big here. Give me some big bold call.
This is gonna be the one that gets all the.
This is the
comments.
social clip. Yeah, this is the social clip. Jason Bartram said, "What?
Put this out." And look, I'll say this first, Alex, before I give you my little snip, is the guys and girls at Oz Cycling will be thinking through these same things as well. So don't think it's like, oh, I'm coming up with it first. They're going to do the same reflections. They're seeing the same things as well. But
every other high performance unit in the world.
Absolutely. Look, there's no doubt that I think, we've gone a little bit too hard down the line of team, what we thought was team pursuit specialization and aerobic qualities and aerobic capabilities, which is what you see a lot more of on the road. Is probably a bit more critical than we thought. And
also, just for an athlete's career, it's something I've been thinking about a lot. Now you see the full team either retiring or going to the road. Porter's out. Welsford looks like he's going to the road. Kell's going to Bike Exchange. Plappy's going to Ineos. And Lee's retiring. Like, for those guys too, the road is such an important part of if they want to make money out of this sport. They get a nice little government payment, but they're not buying houses with the cash that they're earning.
No.
And there's big money to be made. But if you're spending 4-5 years in this circumstance to pursue this gold medal opportunity, you're losing out on such quality road time. Whereas if you can couple that development, couple that preparation with a road career, there's so much more upside for the athlete as well.
Oh, for sure. It'll be really interesting to see in this campaign. And, we often judge people's impact in the sport over probably too short a window. So for example, if you honestly think that Sam Welsford and Kell O'Brien and Luke Plapper lost to the track, I'd like to hope that they're not, and I'd like to hope that they now have such a foundation of track skills and experience that if they do go off to the road for a few years, as long as we have an environment where the door's open for them to come back, we could see some of these boys lining up again and chasing that gold again.
Yeah. So you'd say try and say we've got 3 years, you try and keep them, do a little bit of track for a couple of years, but not really, and then really you'd want them back for the last year, or how long would you want to get them back for?
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing is how much they've got the foundation, right? Like that's there. They're not going to forget how to ride the track.
Yeah.
Like riding a bike, you never forget.
Yeah.
But still left-hand turns. Yeah.
Unless they change the direction.
Gee, that would be crazy, wouldn't it? Yeah, exactly as you said, Alex. Dabble them in, give them little bits here and there, keep them hungry, and pull them in for that last year.
The only thing I'm thinking is like they'll obviously want to lose a little bit of weight for the road.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember talking to Welsford about how much gym he was doing, and you see the size of him, like guy's an animal.
Yeah.
How does that affect his track speed?
Yep.
Or does the road prep just outweigh the benefits that he's getting from the track and size that he has?
Yeah, look, there's I went around in circles with this a little bit whilst I was working in the program, is around how important is lean mass to team pursuit performance. There is no doubt that there's a layer, and this is what I think a lot of people forget, is that there's a layer around strength training that isn't just around mass gain. So you can improve someone's strength without getting heavier, and that potentially is where some of those qualities need to be maintained, but potentially the lean mass element can't be placed as over important of aerobic capabilities.
How do you measure lean mass?
Lean mass, so
mass, not mass.
Yeah.
Math.
So like how much it weighs. So we got all the muscle from your body. How much does it weigh? The main approach we use is DEXA scans. So it's literally like doing an X-ray, and it's basically to do with the density of muscle that's in your body. We can kind of attribute up what part of you is fat, what part of you is muscle and bone.
Do you think there's going to be more of a focus on that kind of measurement, moving away from, we're talking more cycling in general, so like a road as well? Do you think that's going to become of more importance than just it seemed like the previous way was you just lost weight, you just got skinnier, just get lean as, like just cut down those carbs, just clock miles and you'll be great.
Yeah.
You'll do 400 watts your entire life, but you'll just lose a kilo each year.
Yeah. For sure, Alex, to be honest, I think you're already a little bit behind and outdated here in terms of what you experienced maybe in that world versus what's already happening in the pro teams a lot more these days. There's a lot of smart guys, a lot of progressive science going into making sure that they are performance-related body comp discussions and decisions, as opposed to just having no bread before dinner.
Yeah. Have you got one big call to leave us with for Paris? What are we going to see on the track?
In Paris, it's so unknown, isn't it? Like obviously with Simon departing, we'll have a new performance director. Presumably we'll have a new performance director, and it'll be up to them to kind of set the vision and set the tone, won't it?
What are we going to see though? What's going to be the next big thing? Talking in general, are we going to see roadies coming back? Are we going to see Ganna still dominating? Are we going to see the German girls just continue to crush it? Are the girls going to go under 4 minutes?
Girls under 4, wouldn't that be huge? No reason why they
they're
shouldn't.
Not far off.
No reason why they could.
They're not.
Do you know what's really fun? What I love to do, and is you put together your team pursuit dream teams. So you kind of go, all right, I'm going to have Darget, I'm going to have Brunel, I'm going to have Katie Archibald, I'm going to put them all together. I'm going to put in Georgia Baker, and I'm going to say, how fast could they possibly ride?
And how fast could they go?
Oh, gee, I haven't looked at the numbers this time around, but yeah, you got to think they could nudge that 4-minute barrier, which is bonkers, absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
To think where we were, like starting the prep post London, with the boys, and yeah.
What were the boys post London? What were you riding?
I think GB rode like we were like a 53, 54 at London from memory.
And that was crazy because it was sub 4. It's like, wow, sub 4.
Yeah. Well, that's the really cool one here, Alex, around the Germans. Like, so I don't know if you remember, but the Germans were the ones to break the 4-minute mark in the men's TP, and there was, a huge amount of effort, and the whole country, the way the stories are told is that all of Germany was behind that. This really huge journey, and so now to see the Germans back up on top in the women's, I just think is really cool to see them, back in the endurance track landscape.
Yeah.
Overall, it's just awesome that the team pursuit is a thriving competition, and there's so many teams fighting for those medals. It's exciting to be a part of.
How much speed comes down to technology?
Yeah, a lot, Alex. Yeah.
Like how much? What does a skin suit get you? A good skin suit versus a shitty skin suit?
Yeah. I mean, look, we're looking 2 seconds, I think, in terms of an aero package. From kind of like your stock standard versus your optimized aero package, we're looking in that 2 second mark.
Isn't that just crazy?
Yeah,
you can train all this much, all you want, but you're gonna get 2 seconds out of wearing the right outfit.
What really bothers me here is this kind of idea that 2 teams can line up on the track either side. They can race once, and one team wins by, say, half a second. You could then swap equipment, race again, and potentially get a different result. And as much as I love innovation and tech, to me that doesn't stand true to what sport is about. So as much as I love it, I also a bit frustrated by it.
Yeah, it just turned into Formula One.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there that much in the bikes as well?
You would say definitely smaller on the actual frame, at least. You generally go skin suit, helmet, and then kind of front end.
Helmet makes that much difference.
Can do. Yep. Yeah. It's all part of that.
And then when you say front end, like handlebars
and the position that it can put you in. So, the rider's frontal surface area is still the dominant thing causing drag, and hence where you can get the most change.
So would GB have the fastest gear still?
Wasn't it interesting? So like we were all waiting. So GB are well known for having probably one of the best 4-year periodization plans, where they come out at the Olympics and they're like just a level above what we've seen from them previously. And so they come out here, but they weren't that good at 2020 Worlds, same as us. They were a little bit off the mark, and watch them line up and wait for them to race. And the GB men weren't that crash hot, to be honest. They didn't set the world alight. And so I go, oh wow, it's finally the GB tech hasn't done it for them. But then you looked at the women's team and they were flying. So and they were flying in a lot of bunch races as well.
Quick on the track, and everything outside.
So who knows? It's really hard to know, right? Like internally, if you've got the data on your own athletes, you can work out what the contribution from the rider was from a physical perspective, and you can work out what the effect of the tech was. But without that data, it's a little bit of guesswork.
Because like for the Italians, it seemed like they were just riding Pinarellos.
Just Pinarellos. They're beautiful bikes.
Like they're gorgeous bikes. And they're obviously quick, because Team Sky Ineos use them, and you pretty much can't be an Ineos partner without being.
Who's that?
One of the best.
Who's that?
Yeah.
Oh, Ineos. Oh, right.
Ineos Grenadiers.
Yeah. Who's that?
Like, do they have as much innovation, tech funding as the Australians and the GBs? And then the Kiwis? What were the Kiwis riding?
Kiwis. Yeah, it's funny. Like a lot of time, again, you're going just to the bike frame, aren't you? But it's the smallest part, right? We're looking at skin suit, helmet, rider position. Like they're kind of your big carrots.
Would everyone have the same skin suit?
No. So
everyone's got different skin suits.
Everyone has similar theories, I think, around the skin suits. Pretty basic patterns where you'd see kind of textured areas and smooth areas. But the coolest one that stood out was the Kiwi skin suit. So did you have a look at that?
No, I just watched them ride.
Oh, right. I thought you'd see, because it's like glossy. There's like areas that were a bit like glossy and shiny, which looked a bit different to what every
What does
other
that
country
do?
had. Well, it's a really smooth section, right? So the battle of aerodynamics is around controlling airflow and trying to have it go and behave in the way that you want it to behave, and that's through having really smooth sections and really textured sections and getting those in all the right spots.
Yeah. Wow, it's all happening. It's all happening.
Yeah.
And so now they'll embark on just another 4-year innovation campaign.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
I guess
all the
so.
engineers of the world would sit down and get planning.
So my question is, say you've got what, $50 million to allocate for 4 years. How much of that are you putting to tech?
Pending. So the tricky part here is if the UCI come in and change any rules, which is what they've been doing over the last few cycles, is you've almost got to kind of have this broad R&D approach that's ready to handle any UCI rules that come up. So for example, the UCI changed a lot of rules around skin suit design and the kind of materials that were allowed to be used. They could do it again, right? So imagine if you went heads down, spent $49 million on a new skin suit. you got $1 million left to buy your food for everyone for the next couple of years, and then the UCI changed the rules. That would be pretty devastating. But I'd say they'd probably start broad, try and think through all the different areas they can make gains in, and but yes, you got to spend money on the equipment.
I think that's unfortunate. I just wish you could.
I'd love to see it change.
I just wish you could just take, I don't know, whatever the latest TT bike is and just chuck a fixed gear on it and go, you bitty, it's rock and roll.
Well, the really cool one, and I'm not going to claim this idea because I'm pretty sure I stole it from somewhere else, but imagine
you can claim it. I'll cut that bit out.
Imagine you show up to the games or World Championships, and there's a bike supplier that gives everyone track bikes, and there's 4 sizes, and they give you skin suits as well. So there's actually like an official supplier to these games. I just think that'd really be really cool.
Did you see the German in the pentathlon, to really get off topic, where she was the horse? She was in the gold medal position. She was going to win, and a horse just wouldn't jump over the.
I've seen the memes from it. Yeah.
And apparently they just get a horse like at the Olympics. You just rock up and you get a horse. Yeah. So no one can have a better horse.
Yep.
That seems crazy.
Let's do it. Who do you know? Who do you know that we're going to make the official bike supplier?
Well, we can have MAP apparel.
Perfect.
So everyone will have super quick skin suits.
Perfect. So everyone will be really fast.
Everyone will be really fast.
And really comfortable. And really fashionable.
And they look exceptional. That's the most important part. All made and designed in Melbourne. So not made in Melbourne, designed in Melbourne, made in Italy. So the Italians will be happy.
They'll be happy.
And then just get some bikes, some Malvern Stars or something.
Perfect. Huffies. Kmart special.
Huffies. You'll be ready to go.
Then let's see what we can do.
Alrighty. Thank you very much for your time, Jason. It's great to chat. It's great to hear your story as well. I think that was great to get a better understanding of, and we wish you all the best in all your future career moves.
Yeah, thanks, Alex.
Don't go to the dark side. Don't jump shit. We don't want your expertise on the other side of the water.
Hey, we'll see who sends me an email first.
Yeah. Well, they'll be coming after this interview. Don't you worry.
Mate, all the gems I've dropped.
Thanks, mate. We'll talk soon.
Cheers, Alex. Bye.